things that I think if you do not hit it on the center, you tend to hit it a little bit toward the toe of your foot.
I've been hitting a lot off the toe a lot.
Yeah, you can see here this one's 30% on the toe. It'll say on there, it'll show you if it's on the center, 30, 60, 100% toe, or the same thing with the heel. You definitely, a few of them are on the toe, and what that's going to cause you to do is that may cause some of them that push off to the right a little bit there. You'll also lose some distance on them because it's just not as solid. You know, every quarter of an inch that you're toward the toe or the heel, you lose like 10% of your distance. So, you know, you hit on the toe, you might lose 10, 15 yards on there. Definitely one of the patterns that we're going to talk about why that happens. Just looking at your stance right off the bat, a couple things just a little bit off. Number one, it looks like you know, again, you're just in the room here, but everything's a little bit off to the left with your aim. You can see feet's a little bit here, and it shows that your shoulders are one more degree, and that would turn yellow. So I think the shoulders are a little bit left. Everything's just aimed a little bit left there. One other thing maybe is you're a little tight with your hands to your body here, so we might be able to get you just a little further away and force you to lean forward a little bit more. Certainly with Anthony Kim there, you can see where he has a little bit more space between his hands and his body. Here, we'd want definitely everything to be more inside or closer to that green line, more behind you. One of the things that happens when you get to this position is you don't end up turning a lot early in the swing. The pros, on average, will have about 57 degrees of shoulder turn by this point. You're at 36. I think this hurts with your downswing, a lot of different reasons, but we definitely would want your hands to feel like they're real close to your body by this point.
I think I was trying to read it.
What happens to the top of the swing is you get really high at the top. See how high, straight up you are at the top of the swing? We can see where his hands are more behind him because you started bringing him inside. That leads to like a flatter position. Because you bring him out so much on the way up, that really gets you to the high position at the very top of your swing. As you're going up, a few other things happen too. We can see where maybe the head comes up a little bit, even the legs straighten out a little bit there. So one of the other numbers that turns red here is that you've actually overturned your hips a little bit there. We can see where, you know, his lower body's real quiet. For you, I think because you're going up, everything straightens up a little bit. Your head comes up a little bit, the legs straighten out a little bit, so everything has gone up just a little bit. Because you're up real high there, then on the way down, what we can see is that now your club is kind of coming down a little bit steeply too. You know, we can see where his club is. It's right in between those two green lines. For you, it's much higher than that. And again, it's because your whole swing is more up and down. We're going to try and flatten out that swing a little bit, make it more like a baseball swing. Now, if your ball was right by your toes, then it would be, you'd ideally want to have a straight up and down swing. But because it's also a little bit out, it's got to be a little bit flatter. As he's hitting the ball, and what we can see for you is that you kind of lose your posture. Like if we look at your backside, see where it comes in a little bit? So your body's coming in, you're kind of losing that spine angle, so to speak. You know, we can see for him, his is going to stay right where it is. He's going to maintain that angle all the way, you know, to the top of the swing, and then certainly as he's coming down and hitting the ball, he's still on that same angle. He's still leaning forward the same amount, and he's still on that back line. So the fact that yours changes a little bit, we can see where that's where you might hit some fat shots or toe shots, is that your body's backside's coming in, but your upper body's going up. So you've just kind of changed the angle of your body as you're hitting the ball. You can see a little bit where hands are still kind of close to your body. I think that's more because of the takeaway. If we can get you turning a little bit more, we can see where he's getting more extension, like his hands are getting a little further away from his body. Your hands are still a little bit close to your right leg there. And again, that's where one of the things that shoulder turn ends up being a little bit short is, you know, he's getting more extension, really stretching out and turning more. If we look at his lower body again, we saw where you were overturning a little bit maybe from the other side, and we can see where your hip turn number ends up being a little bit high at the top. I think part of that you can see from this angle is where the lower body has moved more, like your left knee has come in more. We can see where, you know, he hasn't changed his lower body a whole lot from top, you know, from the beginning to the top there. Not a whole lot of change to it. For you, I think there's a little bit of extra movement, and that's because you've overturned your lower body. The right leg is straightened, and again, that forces the left knee to come in more and bend more. You can see where for you, and this is what might cause your ball to hook a little bit extra there, is that, see, he's going to be holding that wrist hinge a little bit longer, and his club is angled back. For you, it's a little more the opposite way. You've kind of lost that wrist hinge, which will cause you to lose some power because you've unhinged your wrist a little bit early, and now you're coming in. So your club actually bottoms out, before the golf ball. We can see where, your club is already angling up. So your club bottoms out before the golf ball, and then you're on the upswing, which can cause some of those fat shots too. Also a loss of power. He's going to be holding that wrist hinge and unhinging them right at the golf ball. Just a result of some of the things that have happened before it, we can see where for him, left arm is going to be completely straight, and that left wrist will also be a little straight for you because of what we saw before. This is just sort of the end result of everything we've seen, where that left wrist is kind of cupping, and that's where, you can see it in the follow through here where the left arm is kind of bending, and then that left wrist is bending as well. You want to have great, extension where the arm's straight and the wrist is straight all the way through. This hip turn number, the pros will have that at about 42 on average. And, you just visually, I'll pull up, this is a lot of turning, he does a lot of turning through, but we can see where as he hits the ball, look how much turn he has. His body's already facing out towards the target. That's a big source of power for you. Again, because your hips are coming in this way a little bit, and you've overturned back, you're not getting a lot of turn on the way through, which, like we said, is a big source of power. Yeah, I like the one on the right there. A couple things. You're leaning forward a little bit more, and that's a good thing. We want you to have a posture like that. That's really good. And more importantly, I like the space there between your hands and your body. You want to have at least, a good rule of thumb is a hand width between your hands and your body there. You want to be able to keep a little bit of space there to come through properly. Good. We look at your stance there with that extra space between your hands and your body, and what you want to see is that your arms hang not straight down, but slightly out from your shoulders there. And again, with that good stance where you're a little bit further away, that's what we want to see. Just here, his arms are going to hang slightly out. He's hitting an 8-iron here. Now, if he were hitting a driver, they'd be even further out, but they hang slightly out. And again, I like where your stance is there. Now, again, your hands are still just a little bit above that yellow line. But what does end up happening is your shoulder turn increases to like 55. The pros on average are going to have 57. We saw when we were looking at your earlier swing, it was more like 36, 38, something like that. That's more of what we want. Early shoulder turn, you're using your body a little bit better at this point. A couple things. Number one, you're inside out 8 degrees, so you're not coming over the top anymore. You're swinging out to the right by getting extra turn there. And this one, you hit center of the club. This is a nice draw that would start right of your target and then draw to the left. If you're doing this, that's a little bit more of what I think you should see.